Yashodanandana Prachajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prachachanaranjana Yashodanandana Prachachanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Giridhari Shri Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nittai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Let's read Lilamrita first, some nectar about Srila Prabhupada, to see where to continue. All right. Different paces of reading here. Okay. It's in Gorakhpur, February 10th, 1971. On hearing that Prabhupada wanted to preach in Gorakhpur, Hanuman Prasad Podar, eminent head of the Gita Press publishing company, offered one of his properties, a two-story house, his former residence, known as Krishna Niketan. Mr. Podar, who was bedridden in another house in Gorakhpur, had first met Prabhupada in 1962, and he appreciated Prabhupada's mission. When Prabhupada received permission to use the Krishna Niketan, he acted quickly. It was not proper, he said, that the deities of Radha and Krishna he had brought from Calcutta had been packed away in a trunk after the Ardha Kumbh Mela. They had already been worshipped, so their worship should not be stopped. The deities have to be installed tomorrow, he said, and he put Kaushalya and Nanda Kumar in charge of the preparation. Seeing that Nanda Kumar and Kaushalya needed more help, Prabhupada called for all his disciples, and soon 20 American devotees were scurrying about, preparing for the next day's festival. Prabhupada directed the devotees in cleaning the temple room from ceiling to floor and in building the altar. He asked Himavati to donate her fanciest sari, which she hung like a curtain before the table that was to be the deity's altar. The altar needed a backdrop, he said, and while Kaushalya stood on the table, he handed her pieces of colored fabric to arrange against the wall. The backdrop completed, Prabhupada took a rug a devotee had bought in Allahabad and placed it over the table altar. That night, Prabhupada surveyed the temple room. Oh, it is very nice, he said. He retired to his room, and two devotees stayed up all night doing clothes for Radha and Krishna. The next morning, the deities were placed on the altar, and the devotees resumed their worship, offering them prasadam and arti 6 times a day. The devotees were living in an ISKCON temple atmosphere for the first time since they had arrived in India, and their lives became regulated and secure. The weather warmed, and the devotees, many of whom had exhausted their health in Allahabad, felt relief. The Gorakhpur temple was situated on several acres of agricultural land outside the city. It was a peaceful place. During the day, Prabhupada would rest as the sunshine came through the window and warmed his body. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 13, entitled Rahugana Converses with Jadabharat, Text 18. Trumeshuram Syan Sutadara Vatsalo Vyavaya Dino Vivasa Swapandane Vachit Pramadat Giri Kandare Patan Valim Grihitva Gachapita Astitaha. Rumeshuram Syam Sutadara Vatsalo. Vyavayadino Vivasa Swabandane. Vachit Pramadat Girikandare Patan. Valim Grihitva Gachapita Astita. Rumeshuram Syan Sutadara Vatsalo. Vyavayadino Vivasa Swabandane. Vachit Pramadat Girikandare Patan. Valim Grihitva Gachapita Astita. Umeshuram Syan Sutadara Vatsalo. Vyavayadino Vivasa Sabandane. Vachit Pramadat Girikandare Patan. Valim Grihitva Gachapita Astita. Rumeshuram Syan Sutadara Vatsalo. Vyavayadino Vishasvabandane. Vachit Pramadat Girikandare Patan. Valim Grihitva Gachapita Astita. Yeshudvam Syan Sutadara Vatsalo. Vyavadino Vivasha Swabandane. Vachit Pramadat Girikandare Patan. Valim Grihitva Gachapita Astita. Please repeat word by word. Rumeshu, in the trees, or in houses standing like trees in which monkeys jump from one branch to another. Ramsyan, enjoying. Suttadara Vatsalaha, being attached to the children and wife. Vyavayadina, who is poor-hearted because of acting on the platform of sex desire. Vivashaha, unable to give up. Svabandhane, in bondage to the reactions of one's own activities. Kvachit, sometimes. Pramadat, from fear of imminent death. Giri Kandare, in a cave in a mountain. Patan, falling down. Valalim, the branches of a creeper. Grihitva, capturing. Gachapita, being afraid of the elephant of death. Ashtita remains in that position. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When the living entity becomes exactly like a monkey, jumping from one branch to another, he remains in the tree of household life without any profit but sex. Thus he is kicked by his wife just like the he-ass. Unable to gain release, he remains helplessly in that position. Sometimes he falls victim to an incurable disease, which is like falling into a mountain cave. He becomes afraid of death, which is like the elephant in the back of that cave. He remains stranded, grasping at the twigs and branches of a creeper. Purport. The precarious condition of a householder's life is described herein. A householder's life is full of misery, and the only attraction is sex with a wife who kicks him during sexual intercourse just as a she-ass does her mate. Due to continuous sex life, he falls victim to many incurable diseases. At that time, being afraid of death, which is like an elephant, he remains hanging from the twigs and branches of the tree, just like a monkey. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananchalatchalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Translation again. When the living entity becomes exactly like a monkey, jumping from one branch to another, he remains in the tree of household life without any profit but sex. Thus he is kicked by his wife, just like the he-ass. Unable to gain release, he remains helplessly in that position. Sometimes he falls victim to an incurable disease, which is like falling into a mountain cave. He becomes afraid of death, which is like the elephant in the back of that cave, and he remains stranded, grasping at the twigs and branches of a creeper. One of those verses you could really give a Brahmacharya Kijai class, the miseries of household life, isn't it? And we have a few of those verses in the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam doesn't want us to go astray, to go in the wrong direction, and wants to point out the miseries of material existence, right? Household life is compared to a deep, dark well, like a swamp where we get sucked deeper and deeper into material consciousness, right? And here it's described, how a man attached to household life becomes just like a monkey. Yeah. So it seems like we're all in Maya, because most of us end up in household life. So what's going on? So first of all, we have to understand what the Bhagavatam is talking about. So Jada Bharat is not talking about the Grihastha who creates his household life as an ashram. He talks about the Grihamedi who sees the household life and material life and sense enjoyment as the all in all. Because while enjoying the senses, while enjoying the association of his wife, the body of his wife, and the expansions, his children, death is creeping nearer. And sooner or later, everyone realizes that, because the body gets old, weak, diseased, the teeth become loose, and so on. So, and then fear starts, because we have nothing else. So we cling to those material things we attain during our life. We cling to the creepers, the branches of the creepers, the arms of our wife, but she can't save us from death. The children can't save us. No one can save us from death. The body will ultimately die. So that's the reality. And avoiding to confront that the reality is madness, willful ignorance. So the Bhagavatam points out to the aspiring devotees the miseries of household life, of material life in general, and how household life is a real shackle, because it's so nice. If we have a person we can be intimate with, we can who knows us well, who knows our, we know that person knows us, we take care of each other's needs. So it's very nice household life. And that's why, even for the devotees, if we create our household life as an ashram, if we have the ashram, there are 3 ashrams. There's the training, which prepares us to not fall into the traps of household life. But despite the training in the brahmacharya ashram, yeah, household life is so nice that we still can get swamped a little bit and distracted from our actual purpose, which is reviving our dormant Krishna consciousness, which is going back home, back to Godhead, which is serving Krishna. It's the practice of devotional service. Very easily distracted in the Grihastha ashram, because there's so many duties we have to perform. We have to maintain ourselves. We have to maintain the children. We have, the husband has to maintain the wife, and so on. So we have so many things to perform. It can be very distracting. If and just because we're initiated and married doesn't mean we actually living in an ashram. It takes more than that. It takes conscious effort to keep Krishna in the center of all our daily lives, of our activity. Because otherwise, very easily we also get a little bit sidetracked. And that's why there's the next ashram, which is the Vanaprastha ashram, which is, and those three ashrams are actually meant for everyone. And it's a natural progression that during our, during our life, if Krishna is in the center, if we treat Grihastha life, householder life as an ashram, we will get the realizations, because we advance, we desire to do more in Krishna's service and all those responsibilities of householder life. And if it's just maintaining the house, mowing the lawns, the garden, cleaning, all the fixing of the, emptying the gutters, cleaning the gutters, so many activities of maintenance, which actually take time away from our real purpose in life. And when the body is older, it becomes even more painful to do those maintenance chores, to maintain the house, to maintain the ashram, to work. You have to work so hard, especially in New Zealand, nothing is cheap. You have to work so hard to be able to finance all the necessary maintenance work, which comes in due course of time, because everything in the material world diminishes, breaks. Everything has an end. And so we always have to put energy in maintenance. Right? And so naturally, if we treat Grihastha life as an ashram, we will realize that this maintenance activities are a waste of time, impediments to our devotional service. So when the children are old enough and marry themselves, enter their Grihastha life, well, then it's time for the parents to, in 40s, 50s, Prabhupada repeatedly says 50 years. 50 years. that's the warning, right? Because the body is still fit enough. We can perform. We're still healthy generally in our minds. That all the faculties are still there. Now it's the time to prepare for the inevitable test of our life. To see what is more important to us, anything in the material world or Krishna and his service, and that test is death. Because whatever we absorbed in at the time of death, that destination we will reach. So if we absorbed in material life, we will get material life. If we absorbed in devotional service, we will continue our service. And it doesn't actually matter anymore in the material world or outside the material world. Because devotional service doesn't depend on any material conditions. So, and the pure devotee doesn't really mind anymore. We have so many quotes in the Bhagavatam about that. Right? So, and it does not mean that we have to run into the forest, live in pine trees in the monoculture in New Zealand, because it would be very austere. It simply means that we reduce complexities. Instead of a 6-bedroom house with 3 bathrooms, we may go to a 2-bedroom house, because we don't need the other bedrooms. The children moved out. The children moved out. So we don't need to maintain unnecessarily. So we can reduce, and it can be at any pace. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be step by step, that we gradually reduce the complexity. In whatever pace is comfortable for us, because we all have different levels of attachments. We all attach to different aspects of of material life, and devotional practice also includes reducing those attachments. But that comes naturally if we have the taste. If we engage in devotional service, there will be taste, and automatically we desire to increase the service and reduce non-devotional activities, maintenance activities. So vanaprastha means simply reducing complexity, reducing, and then and engaging more in devotional service. And that can be very different because also when we get older, the capacity of the body is different. If we're young, we can do sacrifice, catering, all this hard physical stuff. And then later on, we may not be able to do that anymore. Some people can, others can't. But there's so many aspects of service: guiding younger devotees, preaching, deity service. I mean, physical can be very physical, but it's we want to be absorbed in service, and that's the whole purpose of reducing complexity. So that's the vanaprastha ashram, which protect us from getting too comfortable in household life. And we can, in Grihastha life, during the Grihastha life, we should actually think about, so what am I going to do in 20 years, 10 years, whenever, I'm actually, 4 years and I'm 50. My God, the time is just flying, especially when you have family. And in the West, especially you start Grihastha life, or married life quite late now. So the children are not out of the house by the time you're 50, so it's just, but yeah, then reality is catching up. So we have to think about what do you want to do at that time when family life has been, making plans, because I mean every materialist makes plans for their retirement. Oh yeah, when I have my pension, when I'm retired, I don't work anymore, then I travel the world, I do this, I just play golf all day, whatever it is. Materialists make plans. So devotees, we have to make plans as well for our retired life. Yeah? How we want to spend it, where we want to spend it, right? And so on. So the fourth ashram, of course, is not for everyone, but all the first three ashrams are meant for everyone: training, household life, and then retirement. And it's a natural progression. So it's nothing artificial in there. Of course, when we're fanatical and have to run in the forest, then okay, then it's a bit artificial. No, but there's just naturally a certain progression there, right? So household life is very attractive, very comfortable, and it can lull us into a little almost willful ignorance if you're devotees. As a materialist, of course, they don't have the knowledge; they're just ignorant. But even for devotees, we can lull ourselves into some, life is actually not so bad attitude, right? So in the Bhagavatam, we have also the instructions. I think it's in the first canto, obviously. Vidura instructs Dhritarashtra with very strong words. Your teeth are loose. You're like a dog waiting for the food scraps falling from the table of the master. What are you doing here? You try to kill the Pandavas. What are you doing here? You have no shame. Waking him up, really shaking him up. So, and then Dhritarashtra finally got it and went out and performed, austerities and left the comfortable household life. So we need sometimes someone shaking us up and making us leave our comfortable life for some higher purpose. Now, I thought I'd balance it a little bit. Much time. Because we see household life is oftentimes, of course, we understand that material household life is always presented that it keeps us in the material world, which is true if we don't have knowledge, if we're not following Krishna's system, if we're absorbed in material life. But if Krishna is the center of our activities, if our aim is to attain devotional service, then we can make household life into a springboard to actually go home back to Godhead, because it provides so much opportunity of service and purification. And most of us And Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that there are two persons, the attached and the unattached. The unattached is in the is the brahmachari, right? And the attached is the grihastha. And most of us are attached. And if we attach, we cannot artificially pretend to be a brahmachari because we're going to avoid purification. So I thought I'll try to present how our false ego gets purified in the grihastha ashram, because there's often misunderstanding. And if we understand how the false ego is purified in the grihastha ashram, then many aspects of of different roles we're meant to play. Yeah, we're not the body, but we have a body, so we have to deal with it. The roles we have to play throughout our lives, as father, husband, mother, wife, whatever profession we have, whatever vana we doing, we are in. So we have different roles, different hats we're wearing, right? So then there's no misunderstanding of the purpose of why we have to play the role, because it becomes very clear. Right? And it's a difficult topic to approach, because first of all, we have to approach that topic from the transcendental platform, at least theoretically, because if we absorb in bodily consciousness, nothing is fair. Why can that one do this and I'm not allowed and I have to do that? And that's bodily consciousness, and very easily, we're not actually getting beyond that. So we have to understand those and approach the topic from at least from that knowledge. Or if it's now realized knowledge or just book knowledge, we have to approach it theoretically, at least from I am not this body. And then it becomes clear, because if I'm not the body, so what do I do to get rid of it? How do I transcend the body to be able to, or the bodily consciousness to be able to engage in Krishna consciousness? So that should be the interest of the devotee. And another aspect is, which is described in in the Nectar of Instruction, the word niyamagraha, following the rules and regulations of scripture just for the sake of following, or neglecting the rules and regulations. Now, when we talk about the grihastha ashram and how the roles we're meant to play, I'm not sure if the word rules and regulations is right. So it may be a different word, and agraha and agraha, but the purport is still the same. So we're not suggesting now every husband has to do this, otherwise, because it says here in the book, and the wife has to be this, the Vedic queen, and anything else is Maya. No, that would be just for the sake of following and not for spiritual advancement. We have to understand why we should do the role. And oftentimes, because we cannot play our roles, because we're so far away from our worldviews, we can't. It's just it's just too far away from where we at and what roles we're meant to play according to Krishna's system, that we just say, what's the point in even trying? And we do the other niyamagraha, and we're neglecting it completely. No point. I don't care. What can be done? I can't do it, so why even try? But if we understand the purpose behind it, if we understand the beauty of Krishna's system, even if we cannot do it, but if we accept it, yes, now I understand, that's right. And I'm so unfortunate, I cannot perform my duties as I should, because of so many attachments, so many issues, so many anarthas I have in my heart. But well, then we're not doing niyamagraha, because we're accepting, even though it doesn't actually externally manifest, there is some internal purification happening, some internal processes happening, and that's actually accepting the rules and regulations for spiritual advancement. And then sooner or later, some aspect will manifest also externally. So we may look externally like we're neglecting the rules, but internally some work is done. But first of all, we have to get to the understanding of why we're meant to perform our duties. And Krishna says very clearly in Bhagavad Gita that we should perform our own duties, not being attached to the results, because the results are not up to us, but we have to perform our duties. And our own duties, even if it's imperfectly performed, with so many mistakes and so many faults. It's better than performing someone else's duty perfectly, because someone else's duty may not purify our false ego, because we're in a different body, we're in a different situation. So what we may be very expert in doing those things, but it will not have a purificatory effect. It may do the opposite. It may puff up our false ego, and that's not helpful for our devotional life. So when we talk about Grihastha life and the roles and the duties, we have to talk about the duties of a husband and wife. And that's a big topic, and it's very difficult because there's so much misunderstandings there. And the worldview, especially in the modern Western world, is completely opposite to spiritual life. And Srila Prabhupada says in the introduction of Sri Upanishad, I think it's there, that we are not Hindus, that we are Varnashram Dharma, that we followers of Varnashram Dharma. So we have to understand what the whole purpose is. And the purpose is the purification. It's external, like Lord Chaitanya says, right, in the conversation with Ramananda Rai. And Ramananda Rai explains, oh, Varnashram Dharma is the highest, but no, this is external. Give me more, Lord Chaitanya says. But before Srila Prabhupada left, he expressed that, well, his only regret is that he couldn't establish Varnashram Dharma because it's such a great support for our devotional attempts. So we talked about the duties. Now let's talk about how the false ego gets purified. And let's try to step back and remember we're not the body, and that makes it easier. And I don't have much time to go into too many different aspects, so I'm just trying to present it straight away, without too much support structure here. Let's start with the wife. For both, there are two aspects of the purification. But for the wife, I just present one. Otherwise, it becomes too easy to guess for the husband, for the man. Okay. So, how does the wife get purified in the Grihastha ashram? How does her false ego get purified? Obviously, we should understand how much the false ego is torturing us day to day, and every moment. We're defending ourselves. We think something is not fair. We know better. We don't want to do our duty. That's all false ego actually whispering into our ears. Don't worry about it. So if we're more aware of our false ego, we see the necessity to, first of all, to help with the purification. Devotional service purifies it, kills the false ego, but it also prevents us. The false ego also prevents us to engage in devotional service. So it's a little bit. Any little extra assistance is very helpful. So you may not like to hear if you're in a female body, but just think about, does it make sense? How does the false ego get purified? By serving the husband, serving the children. And mothers often have the feeling, I give so much to my children, I give so much to my husband, what about me? I'm always last. We hear sometimes and it's very natural. But in terms of the process, let's not discuss here if it's fair or unfair, what we feel about it. But from the process, if you look at it, yeah, it makes sense. If I serve the husband, if I'm serving the children, that will purify my false ego, right? Naturally, because I'm putting my own interest a little bit on the back burner and serve others' interests. And we can almost say that the wife practices devotional service to Krishna by serving the husband. It's the same principles actually apply. And it's, especially when you talk to a Western audience, or you can't even get that far, you get tomatoes in the eggs thrown at you. Very difficult immediately to false egos, because the false egos are so strong within us, they immediately protest. That's not fair. What do you say? But in terms of the process, it makes sense. But again, there's another aspect to it. There is some other requirement. And you can see if it makes sense. Wife serves the husband, wife serves the children, false ego gets purified. makes sense. Now for the husband, and it's also the duty of the wife, by the way, the purificatory duty is, what is it to serve the husband and the children, to have children in the first place. That's the duties of the wife. The duties of the husband are different. The nature of the husband, the nature of the male and female body is very different. So the husband's duties, purifying duties, is to protect, provide, and take charge. Wow, doesn't really seem like purifying the false ego, but doing the opposite, right? And the man wants to be the hero. He wants to take charge. He wants to provide and show what a great guy he is. But it's a purifying duty. So why is it purifying? Well, purifying not so much for the false ego, but, well, let's just provide for one wife. let's just contain it to one wife and make sure that the children are provided for and so on. So it protects, basically, it protects the wife more than the husband almost. Obviously, from the spiritual sense, the husband is also protected to focus on his wife and his children rather than being like a monkey and jumping around everywhere. So that's not what purifies the false ego. And that's where it becomes a little tricky, but it's quite ironic as well. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned before he left that our love for him will be shown how much we're able to cooperate with one another. And so for the man, you can imagine the man has a far bigger false ego than if you're in a male body, your false ego is much more blown up than if you're in a female body. So you have all those men, they all want to be heroes, they all know best, they all want to take charge. Well, cooperation will be very difficult. And there will be lots of clashes, lots of noise with the dishes, with the utensils. And that's what purifies the man's false ego, cooperation with other men. That's what's the purifying aspect for the man. But why does he need a wife then? Because the man is attached. The man is attached to his ways of doing, and if he can't get his way, he gets frustrated. I can say that from experience. You get very frustrated. Right? And then the man comes home, this devotee, that devotee, my boss, or my employee, and this, that, and very easily the wife thinks, why are you angry with me then? Right? That very easily comes up, but no, he's not. The mothers can relate to that best because when their young children learn to play and associate with other children, there's also some noise going on, some clashes of the utensils. Or sometimes the child comes home or runs to the mother crying, he's not my friend anymore, I'll never play with him again. And it's so cute, isn't it? They're trying to learn how to, associate, and that false ego gets a bit hurt, and you can really see their minds, and, they bring it all out, and it's so cute. And what does the mother do? You're not a body. No, she does not do that. What happened? And tell me, and calms the child down, right? Because the false ego is hurt. Yeah, so if the husband comes home upset about this devotee, that devotee, his boss or his employee or whatever, it may not look as cute like a child, but it's the same principle. His false ego is hurt and he needs a little support. Of course, he's strong, he doesn't need any help, but he needs a little band-aid. So the expert wife puts a band-aid on the false ego. It calms it down. A slice of the false ego is gone. Let's put a band-aid on. Pacify the husband. In that way, he goes out again. If he doesn't get that band-aid on the false ego, he can try to cooperate once, twice, 3 times, however many times, but sooner or later he will not go out again. He avoids trying to cooperate. He goes into his cave. There's this man's cave. He retreats into his shed, into his, in front of the computer. He just retreats and doesn't associate with other men. Doesn't try to cooperate with the devotee. And the reason is that his false ego can't tolerate it. And so there is no purification of the false ego. So the man gets purified by cooperating with other men, and the wife facilitates that by putting the band-aid on, encouraging him, making him her hero. So he knows wherever I go, whatever is going on, I have someone, I go home and someone believes in me. Someone understands that I am actually my ideas are much better than the ideas from all the others, right? So he has the support at home, and then he goes out again. He's encouraged to go out again. And then every time the husband comes home upset about whatever, the wife should be happy. Yes, one slice of false ego is gone. Let's put a band-aid on. And maybe ladies have this miracle vision. They may even see it's as cute as the little child coming. I'm not playing with him anymore. But the principle is the same. Now, so the wife is basically the nurse for the husband's false ego, encouraging him. And in that way, the husband doesn't go into his cave and avoids cooperating with others, but goes out and stays in the purificatory process. Now, obviously, it's not very easy for the wife to serve the husband. There are also issues, right? But there are also times where it's enough, or for the children. So the wife also needs a nurse for her false ego. So who is that nurse? No, he's the cause. She needs a nurse. It's not the husband. The husband is the cause. Well, actually, it's her false ego, but it's the husband which is the purifying agent. It's the husband which is, I'm not playing with him anymore. So he can't be the nurse. And that's the big thing. Oftentimes, especially in the West, that's the expectation. No, the lady needs her. Well, the nurses are the elders. Traditionally, it's the mother, the aunties, the grandmothers, which encourage her. No, you're doing well. Just keep going. Just wait and see. There's a saying in Bangladesh, or maybe Bengal as well, India, I don't know, for the first 10 years of your marriage, it's yes, Prabhu, yes, Pati, yes, Prabhu, yes, Pati. And then for the rest of your life, it's yes, Devi, yes, Devi, yes, Devi. Right? And whoever went through the marriage, the grandmother, the mother, they know that, and they know the challenges. So the nurse for the wife is traditionally the elder family member. And her friends, they go through the same challenges. So the ladies need the association of the elders and the friends, and they encourage, oh, you're doing well, keep going, stay in the purificatory process, and at the end of it, you'll see you have all your needs fulfilled, because men are slow in getting what a wonderful wife they have. They're very slow, it takes too long, and that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita about the qualities of the ladies, Patience is one of them, because you really have to be patient with them guys. They take a long time to realize and to get purified enough to reciprocate. Right? But by serving the husband in a nice way, the husband's heart get conquered. And then once it's conquered, that's it. And then it's yes, Devi, yes, Devi, yes, Devi. But it takes time. Right? And then, but the whole art is basically lost. So in both cases, right, the purifying agent is the male false ego for the man and for the lady. The wife has to tolerate the false ego of the husband, and the man has to tolerate the false ego of the other man. And in both cases, the lady is the soothing agent, the nurse, the encourager to remain in the purifying process. So that's why I mentioned some time ago in another class how there is this verse in the Manu Samhita how actually mother is 1,000 times more important than guru ultimately. I mentioned that one time. And and here we see why. Obviously, guru is needed because he gives transcendental knowledge. He engages everyone in devotional service. And I compared that with putting the seeds in the ground. And then the Bhakti Lata can grow. But if we throw the seeds on firm soil, on the footpath, in thorn bushes, where the conditions are unfavorable for the seed to germinate and grow, then there will be no creeper Bhakti Lata growing. But then through the activities, through the mother as a nurse for the false ego of the children, of the husband, and for each other, for the other lady, she prepares the heart. She keeps everyone in the purificatory process, so the false ego is a little bit subdued, right? That we are all in a purified. And then when seeds come into prepared soil, then obviously the seeds can grow much better. And instead of one seed, maybe 10, 100 or 1,000 fructify. So the harvest is much bigger. And that's, not independent of guru, but if guru is there, then the soil needs to be prepared. And that's what mother is doing. That's what the role of the ladies are. And that's why ladies are protected, because the role is so important in society. Yeah? If we don't understand that, we misunderstand the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna says, I'm not fighting because then the women are not protected and society goes down the drain. In the Western world, we understand, he blames the women if society goes down. No, he doesn't. He understands, and Krishna understands the great role they're meant to play. That's why Krishna chastises, and so we misunderstand Krishna. So if the lady's role is so great, why does Krishna not support Arjuna? He says, you're lamenting what is not worthy of grief. What Krishna is saying here is, Arjuna, look, what is the point of plowing the field, of preparing the soil, if there's no one to plant the seed? Guru is not there, parampara is broken. The only thing which will grow are weeds, and then you give up the preparation of the soil anyway. Right? But if Guru is there, how much bigger is the harvest? If the soil is prepared. So in that way, Krishna's system is so amazing. There's cooperation between all the different parts of society. And ultimately, one ashram dharma will be established at home. Because if we have the social body, you have the brahmanas are the head, the vaishyas, the kshatriyas are the arms, the vaishyas the belly, and the and the shudras are the legs. Now we have in Bhagavad Gita also the expressions of women as a class. No? Less intelligent class of men, women, vaishyas, and shudras. So which part of the body would then be women as a class? The backbone, the spine. If the spine is broken, no matter how strong the arms and how bright the head is, the whole social body is broken. Through the role of soothing the false ego, making sure everyone is able to perform their duties within society, within the family, within society, according to everyone's individual nature. Mothers, ladies, actually assure the functioning of the social body. And the way I see it, to re-establish one ashram dharma is to fix the spine and then do rehab. And in the beginning, it may not look like walking. It may just, be some massaging of the leg for the nerves to heal and moving the legs. And it has nothing to do with the final product of one ashram dharma. But if we perform the physio long enough, we will be able to walk as a society in 2 generations, 10 generations, however long it may take. It's a generational work. And the healing process has to start at home with the understanding our role. And it's the easiest way, because if we're able to play our role, then that's the amazing thing of Krishna's system. All our needs will be fulfilled. The wife conquers the husband's heart, the husband reciprocates, and the emotional needs of the wife are fulfilled, the emotional needs of the husband are fulfilled. And just on the side, the false ego is purified. It's actually a nice process. It's not an austere process, Brahmachari is austere. You have to perform austerities. In the Grihastha ashram, it's nice. Because you have a nice creeper-like arms of the wife where you can, let out your frustration. But if Krishna is the center, those creeper-like arms give shelter, put a band-aid on the false ego and husband goes out again. So we have, and in that way, if the spine becomes more and more healthy, and it's broken by social engineering, actually, the whole feminist movement, whatever, it's actually social engineering if we break it down. We don't have, and I don't want to go into conspiracy theories here, but it's social engineering. There was no suppressed class of humans called women who fought for their freedom and gained it. It's social engineering to make us, to be able to exploit us more easily and to keep society occupied with one another rather than fixing the real problems within the world. Anyway, all right. So we can see that if Krishna is not in our life, if Krishna is not the center of our activities, household life can be like a swamp, like we turn into monkeys and just be completely distracted. But the same creeper-like arms of the wife can be also the springboard to spiritualize, to go back home, back to Godhead. If Krishna is the center and we consciously engage in our duties without being attached to the result, and stay in the purificatory process, because that soothing band-aid on the man's false ego will keep him going. By serving the husband in that way, the wife will also be purified, right? And then it's also much easier, to tolerate all those little habits which we don't like from the other person. But if that cooperate, that's the cooperation between, because our natures are so different, our needs are so different. But so I just wanted to balance that a little bit, and I hope I could express what I was thinking in an appropriate way, that, well, the creeper can keep us in the material world, but it can also help us moving out and engage in devotional service if done with knowledge. Krishna, I made it in time. Thank you so much for hearing and allowing me to try to speak a little bit of the Bhagavatam. And are there any questions, any comments, realizations, protests, complaints? What is it? Yeah, I wouldn't call it nurse, because the wife, I have to put my legs down. The husband gives, of course, emotional support, spiritual support, ultimately. But if there is a say if the wife struggles to serving the husband because of whatever, some something is on her mind and she thinks it's not fair, and say, why do I always have to do that? If she speaks with a husband, why do I have to do this for you and that? Like we're sometimes in that sort of mood. You're not my friend anymore, So if the husband says, if the husband says something, usually because it's on the false, those complaints would be on the false ego basis, You know, the false ego of the wife is triggered. Same like the false ego of the husband is triggered when he deals with other men, right? The other man cannot convince him or calm him down. It will just trigger the false ego, right? So it's the husband cannot really encourage her to just continue serving. Someone else has to do that. At the same time, the wife can go to the husband and express her feelings, you know, her struggles about something else, but not about the struggles she has with him, right? But maintaining her, she can go to the husband about her children. I'm struggling with this, but again, the husband is not so qualified like her mother or her grandmother to give her advice. But he can support her. I understand how you feel, and a little bit, yeah. But in terms of, you know, if obviously husband and wife can talk about their relationship and clarify things as well. But the encouragement to stay in the process comes from the elders, from the mother, from mentors, because he is the purifying agent. He is the purifying agent for her false ego. Like he is the purifying agent for the husband as well. Right? Someone else has to, oh, it's all right, you're doing well. Just continue. It cannot be the husband. I hope it makes sense. I'm not sure if I can express that properly, but it's just, you know, he gives shelter and emotional support is the most important duty of the husband. But if the wife doesn't, you know, but that naturally grows when, you know, when she serves him, she conquers his heart, the reciprocation that will automatically grow. But she has to stay in the process, and that has to come from those who went through the process, from her elders, and it's the mother, the grandmother, the mentors. And we have to artificially actually create a little system there, some, you know, which replicates extended family, because especially in the West we don't have that. And especially as, you know, devotees, our family members are non-devotees. They cannot give us that advice as well as a devotee could. We have to be very careful to take shelter and advice from non-devotees, even if they're our parents, because they don't understand what we are doing properly. But I hope that makes a little sense. It was not much time, Mataji. You've been Sudama Mataji. You've been at a whole 1-day presentation once for Varnashram Dham, and you know the roles. So there's much more we can talk. It's a topic we can talk for days, you know, because it takes actually time to go through, and you know, understanding the different natures of men and women, because so many misunderstandings are coming from, we have completely opposite needs, and we easily misunderstand our actions as meaning, oh, this person doesn't care, where in fact, actually, because he cares, he does that. Because she cares, she does that. But because our needs are completely different, opposite oftentimes, Krishna having some fun observing us here, look at that. There's so many misunderstandings now, right? And so I just mentioned that nurse, but I didn't, you know, no time to how to be the nurse, and why and what, and it needs so much more time to explore that topic. But I hope I was able to present or to awaken the interest in, oh, it's worth exploring. That's my goal here. So yeah. Mm, 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 yeah. Yeah, so men are from Mars, women from Venus, from different planets, and it's really like that, and it's really like that. So, and and usually we see the other person from our point of view, right? And we read into the other person certain, our perception is very distorted through our own lenses, yeah? Because it's so different. And if we understand that, then the whole system of one, the whole duties we are meant to perform, according to Krishna's system, makes so much sense, because Krishna understands. I mean, he's from him everything emanates, right? He understands reality as it is. We don't. Our worldviews and all the isms are according to reality as I want it to be. It's illusionary. We don't know reality. But then accepting guidance of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, so many purports, and we just read over it, and it's the 21st century, it doesn't apply anymore, sort of attitude, No, it's Prabhupada's care, it's Krishna's care, the roles he advises us to play. It's Krishna's care for us, so we can go home back to Godhead more quickly. And they fulfill, like I said, all our needs are fulfilled. We can be as happy as we can be in the material world while we get purified and go back home, back to Godhead. Because that's the best way to cooperate with one another. Because it's based on reality as it is. And yeah, different planets, different needs. Thank you, Mataji. Of course. You mean in the duties? Yeah. Duty. I think there's a difference between, yeah. So the question is, how can we do something which is not our nature? How can we do that perfectly? Yeah. But actually, Krishna doesn't say nature; he says duty. So let's just say the duty of the husband is to protect, provide. He wants to be the hero, say, right? But now his qualification is not so high, so his earnings are not so much, right? And say his wife is a qualified psychophysical. Oh, you mean on more in the Vana area? Whoa. Yeah, okay. Well, we can. Urmila Mataji gave a nice example actually there in the class when she was here about which may answer that. So in one farm community, but the principle of the answer is the same anyway, So and he couldn't do it perfectly, by the way. So if it's not our nature, we cannot do it perfectly. But if it's our duty because we take up the role, then But she gave that example of how there was this on one farm there was this devotee taking care of the farm, growing apples and whatnot, and but there was no result. He was, and then they looked into it, and he was a scientist. Oh yeah, with those trees, I tried this and that. So his whole farm was a laboratory for him to understand, So he was in the wrong area. He wasn't supposed to do that, right? He was a scientist. He was not a farmer, so he couldn't do it perfectly. So if it's not our nature, we simply cannot do it perfectly, right? But in terms of what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita about the duty, if it's someone else's duty, even if we can do it perfectly, then we should rather do our own duty perfectly. That's what I was mentioning in class. So that means basically if the wife has better qualification as the husband, could earn more, but it's not her duty to provide. So when we enter marriage, we should see, is the other person, is the wife should see, is the husband able to provide what I need? If he doesn't, stop associating straight away, go to the next person before any attachment develops. Very plain and short, but now if she can be happy whatever he provides, even though she could provide more, she should play the role of the wife, not as the provider, right? So she could perfectly provide, but it's not her duty. And even if she's not the perfect wife, you should rather do that. Obviously, it requires lots of internal work, and it's, we have to understand those principles black and white. It doesn't mean the application is black and white, but we have to understand the principles a little bit black and white. Then we can mix any shade of gray. If we just talk gray and we don't know, we don't know what is black, we don't know the principle, right? So it sounds maybe a little bit black and white, but if we can do that proper understanding, then we can apply or put in the right shade of gray into the application. So duty and nature is a little different. So I don't know so much about psychophysical nature and so on. But yeah, hope that makes sense. Anything else? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when you're engaged in what our nature, it's growing, yeah. And mainly it's about the cooperation. I think if we all act according to our nature, our duties and natures, that's vana and ashram. The duties of the ashram according to our vana, our natures, isn't it? It's like the combination. Vana ashram combines both. And ashram is mainly the duty, whereas the vana is the psychophysical nature, isn't it? So and then it's the best way to cooperate. And cooperation means showing love to Prabhupada. Yeah. Mistakes, yeah. Yeah, we're not perfect. And we cannot, that's why Krishna, better do your duty even how imperfectly as it may be, but that will purify, and that will, as an example again, husband, wife. If the wife does truly her best to please the husband, he will feel it, even if the result is maybe, if the dinner is burned or whatever, if it's sincere and the husband feels the sincerity, the other way around as well, right? You feel if a person is sincerely trying to please us, to make something nice for us, or if it's just a superficial thing. So we feel that, right? And the sincerity, same with Krishna, it's our sincerity which conquers his heart, right? He's not interested in, you have to do 108 books a day, otherwise you're not a devotee or something. No, even if you don't do a book for a week, but you try, engage in that service, he will be very pleased. Maybe more pleased than from someone who does it, who has that nature and is a salesman and just throws the books to everyone and, with a materially better result. So similarly, we feel if our spouse is sincere or not. And if we don't feel that our spouse is sincere, also there's no cooperation. But if that sincerity is there, the result of whatever, it's not so important. The sincerity is conquering our heart on both sides. Kandrachima Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta